All right, welcome back to the way we do it. And I'm coming to you a little later in the evening. I think I like these evenings a little better because when I talked to you guys before, I have light that comes into my house. My front of my house is it's all glass, so I have nature's sun come in, and I thought that was kind of cool. But it would just get kind of give me some glare. Try to fix it. It wasn't really working. And I said, well, if I wait till the evening as well, you guys can get settled in. I noticed a lot of other podcasts, that focus on what we do tends to be in the evenings as well. So I'm gonna start playing around with these evening times because I think it's important, and I'm really excited about today because I give it to you from a perspective of a producer, right? So subjects that I select, I always kind of give it from in entertainment. There's the talent, which I'm not one of, so that's why I don't engage in the talent from that perspective, but kind of like behind the scenes and the business side of it that we don't get a chance to hear from. And I think that you guys need the opportunity to understand from a business standpoint, because we'll look at things from an emotional standpoint, but from a business standpoint, why some of these decisions are made and what to kind of investigate when you're hearing some subjects. So I like to make these kind of reminds me of my uh, college teaching classes. I'm going to be teaching again in the fall, and why I enjoy teaching at the college level because talking to young people about we can get the theory, we can get the book part down. It's the combination of that book learning and then the real world. So that trade. So the goal book learning and trade, put that together. I think that's going to be the next. Everybody's freaking out with AI. I'm not worried about AI in the sense that it's like iRobot. If you ever get a chance to watch a movie that Will Smith was in, iRobot, it's like what, if we're gonna lose to computers, and it is what it is anyway. But I don't think we're gonna lose to computers because I forget what percentage of our brains that we're only using, but it's a small percentage of the brain that we actually have. So I think that's what we should be tapping into. How do we access more of the human brain than these toys that are built by humans, right? So that's gonna be interesting. Another, if you like watching films, there's an old film. I think it's I want to say it's the 80s. Yeah, I think it's like an 80s. It's called War Games. That's a pretty fun film to check out too, where man goes up against the computers on is doing his thing, and this young boy uh, uses logic, human logic, to bring it down. I don't want to give away too much of it. It's a really good movie. I hope they don't remake it. I'm not a big believer in remakes. Remember from last time, I'm a big Star Trek fan, a big Planet of the Apes fan, and I just hate when they just butchered it all up with that stuff as opposed to staying. I'm really there's two pros that I am. I'm pro creator of things. So the visionaries who created uh, Star Wars and the Planet of the Apes, uh, you know, uh, I'm really big on making sure that those things continue. And so I think there's enough creativity out here for everyone to play. And all these reboots are just killing me. So everybody's got an opinion on them, but I like original stuff. We're just seeing I just watched the topic. They were talking about Ryan Coogler and Sinners again. Original. Get Up by Jordan Peele. Original. You know what I mean? So a lot of space, but there's some business aspects of why they're doing what they're doing. But at the end of the day, though, you, the fan, you, the consumer, have the ultimate power, and you have the ultimate choices of doing things. So my goal is just to educate you to the place where you make an informed decision on your own. I'm not really a big believer in pushing people to do what I want them to do. I just like the idea of giving you because I trust the human spirit. give you the information to do so that you could come up with a scenario. And I think that once you get a lot of information, I mean, common sense is one of our greatest things. I mean, I'm not knocking education. I thank my parents for allowing me to be able to do it, to be able to go from elementary school to high school to college and travel parts of the world. So to educate is to learn, and it's pick up a book and read. Be surprised. Some of your friends that got those big bills that they got to pay back, and what is it for? And a lot of those cases is just for the name of that institution, right? Because it really, the dig-in skills, just like for me in television, and now pursuing film, you go into those worlds, you're learning the craft by professionals in those areas. So today's discussion, I kind of wanted to kind of stay pretty tight on what I challenge you guys to push back when you're starting to hear things, so that you get proper assessments, and don't let people off the hook if they kind of give you some slights, right? You want to be able to, especially people that we pay to be in leadership positions, and journalists, those of you who are now what I would call YouTube journalists, the practice of asking the tough questions and getting answers for them, because those answers is what you want to bring back to your audiences, right? You want to be able to give them information. You just want to be a rumor mongerer. Speaking of that, and I know it's a little bit off subject, but I just like to touch things as they happen. I don't Black comics, man. You got to stop. You got to stop attacking each other. It's just not good professional work to do that. I don't see white comics going after each other, Hispanic comics going after each other. We just got to stop that. It just does not do anything to move the culture forward, right? You're all talented in your own ways, and we just gotta stop that. I know it's a habit for us because we're culturally competitive, but we gotta understand where that competition could then destroy what the ultimate goal is: to have more talent in the marketplace, and for people to invest in us uh, for the right reasons, and not that it's a slug match for everything that we do. It's like, we have the craft of boxing for a reason. We put two people in the ring and they duke it out. There's structure for that kind of thing, right? But for our talent that's already sitting out there, we've got it. We got to get out of that, right? So a little off subject, but I just wanted to share that. So let's go to, for me, let's get down to what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Profitable shows don't get suspended. Let me just say that again. Profitable shows don't get suspended. I don't care who owns it. The people that own a show that might not even like you, they're going to like their money, right? No one kicks out anything that's making them money. You see how a lot of times a lot of talent gets kind of recycled back into stuff. And we're like, why is that person back? They did da 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 da. Because they can make people money, right? The American system is set up to make money. So that's why they're going to give people a lot of opportunities. And I hate it when I see it at the collegiate level, with college players, they get into a lot of trouble, and those teams bring them back and don't fix their problem. Just keep bringing them back, and they don't fix their problem, because when you put them on the field, you put them doing their thing, stands are filled, people are making money. So I just want you to just throw out that nonsense that people will just throw something away that makes money. That just does not happen. So that's my investigation number one for you guys. So when you see something, and then I'm going to break down the structure of an award show so that you can see why I come up to this conclusion. And as a producer, I've created shows. And as a producer, I've been in the room when we've created shows to put on our network. From last episodes, I was at BET from 1990 to 2003. So it's a nice little run when we were both privately owned and publicly owned. And at the very tip at the end, then Viacom owned, right? So just to kind of give you the backdrop. So let me just kind of break down to you that's why I said what I said in the beginning of this subject matter, so that you can see what this construction is about. So, blank piece of paper. Blank piece of paper. Producer has a blank piece of paper, has an idea, right? So you write down, and I'm going to talk to you specifically about award shows, so we kind of understand this. So typically, a award show is just that. It's an award for what? It's award for somebody's accomplishments. Typically in television, accomplishments that typically happened a year ago. That now that we have a track record, almost like like a race. People race in, see who's going to win, who comes in first, second, third, and then we honor the people who achieve, and we give it some kind of grace. So we have the best in category this, the best in category that. So typically something happens a year before, then we have an award show to honor those results. Right? Makes sense, right? Award show. Now, from the business standpoint, inside of a network, you come up with your idea of having an award show. Okay. And then next step is it has to be sold. So typically an award show, hour and a half, you come up with some kind of name. And let me just start from the very beginning. Let's just say 2001. I think that's when BT Awards happened. So someone in the room says, "Hey, let's do BT Awards." And we're going to, I think BT, when it first started, its awards show, BET Awards, and make sure you're taking mental notes here, because I'm going to talk to you about a lot of different types of awards. And I believe BET Awards was for sports, film, music, and any other entertainment things. Now, the concept of BET Awards was a reaction to award shows that are out in their marketplace that BET didn't think was giving the proper consideration and honor for our talent, that we were kind of excluded. Now, the main three ones at the time, and there's other ones that are out there, but the main three, you have the Grammys, which is for music. You have the Emmys, which is for television, and you have the Oscars, which is for film. Right? So Grammys, music, all types of music. So all genres of music have their day. And typically that's because when they get the results in from the last year of who's top country, who's top rap, who's top R&B, who's top rock and roll. So we acknowledge these things, right? Then you have the Emmys, which is for television. So the best television shows, the best drama shows, right? And then you have the Oscars, which is for the best films. So that's how mainstream award shows were being done. And in doing those, and this is the thing that we got to understand about Black viewership. Black viewership is like the number one Black viewership of all viewership. So we watch everything, and we're in the front of the lead when we watch that. Well, we weren't seeing ourselves. And it wasn't as if we weren't doing things. I mean, I'm a little older than you guys, but I remember when MTV didn't have any Black artists. And then Michael Jackson came to the scene, had to break that wall. And you're thinking like, what? You're not putting on Michael Jackson? It was huge, a big deal, right? So we're constantly in these little battles, right? So BET took the approach, well, if you're not going to honor our own, we'll honor our own ourselves and have a platform to do it. Now, was BET the first one to do it? No, we had radio stations do it. We had our Image Awards, other entities, but not on a platform, a television platform that's out there. So when cable came about, I think when I was at BT, we were up to like 90 million households, right? So that's a huge platform to engage in something, right? So Grammys, Oscars, Emmys, so that you have those. Now, in each of those award shows, same thing has to happen. Some producers get together and say, we're going to do these award shows. Now, they've been around a long time. So there's new ones, People's Choice Awards, all the kind of stuff. But award shows in general, a producer or producers come up with the idea of having an award show. And they say whatever its little niche is, right? So we'll say, BET Awards, we're going to honor I remember the first one, film, TV. No, I don't think TV was the first one, but film, music, and sports, right? And so you put it together, you come up with a host, and then you come up with your categories and you say how long it is, right? So it's a 90-minute award show honoring, the best in Black entertainment, and it's hosted by someone, typically someone big in the space as well, that just transcends any individual category of Black excellence, but just a very known person, right? And then your salespeople take that concept and pitch it to advertisers. Because remember, the game in television is about, you have advertisers, individual companies who have products and services who need those products and services bought. And Black America is the top consumer. We are professional consumers. That sometimes gets on my nerves sometimes, because we gotta understand we gotta be merchants and retailers and something. But we are top in that game, right? I just saw some clips of Tyla, I think, and correct me in the chat if I'm mentioning her name wrong, but Tyla is a South African singer, and her results of her last album came out, and they were very low because the things that happened in her presenting herself to Black America didn't go well. And so Black America didn't buy her stuff. So her management's got a lot to figure out. So I'm just giving you an example of how Black consumers, and when I'm talking about Black consumers in this aspect, I'm talking about Black Americans, African Americans, FBA, you know, the ADOS. We're going through some relabeling issues. Like I said last time, African Americans are one I use because it gives me the best of both worlds. I have an American experience and I have an African historical experience. That's my DNA that's inside of me. And to me personally, this is just my personal opinion, I believe that group who has gone through American slavery in the whole thing of mixing us up to the point where we've been in America long enough that we have our own culture. I consider that a tribe. I consider African Americans a tribe. Just like you have the Aruba, you have all these tribes in Africa. I think African Americans are a tribe. We have cultural things that put us uniquely in a place where we can defend this experience that we have in America. And when I say America, I'm talking about the United States of America, because people who look like me have a different experience. If they're in the Caribbean, if they're in Venezuela, they're in Brazil, there's some other places. I'm just talking about this particular tribe and how we navigate and how we move forward in America, and the strides that we had to do in America so that other people could use those as well. So if your kids are going to school, challenge their teachers to have them talk to them about the Civil Rights Acts. I was born in 63. The Civil Rights Act, I believe in 1968, that finally got us to where we need to be. My father was in the military, right? 30 years, Sergeant Major, United States Army, E9, for those who understand all those kind of things. He's buried in Arlington National Cemetery. His youngest child, up until he was 5 years old, his youngest child did not have full rights in America. And he put in those 30 years. So just to kind of give you perspective, right? So I say all that to say that this consumer, this Black African-American consumer in America, drives a lot of things, because we're the ones, we're at the top of that, as well as, a lot of the cultural things, the swag, making things hip. I mean, there's been some controversy out there with some jeans companies trying to get back. I'm like, they're not using Black people to make that stuff hot. I don't know, executives, you around the world, when I think of music, when our entertainers go around the world and they're performing on those stages, Those audiences are looking to see how they're moving. So it could be in Germany, some black people in a group. I'm old enough to know Parliament Funkadelics, and you put that funk and you put that on a stage and you take that around the world, and those foreign countries get to absorb that energy, that enthusiasm, that excitement. That's the value part. So if I'm an executive in America, you got to put down some of that nonsense that you were trained, and you got to understand. Remember, my degree's in marketing. You got to understand your consumers. You got to understand target audiences. You got to understand who's consuming your product, and that's your number one thing to maintain to do it. So America's acting real funny right now, but it's gonna be. It gets real funny when them sales drop and them executives that can't get them checks. And I think that's what we're going through now. They got some labeling issues that they got to get around because administration doesn't want to use certain labels. But if I'm a private executive of my business, hey man, I need to focus in on who's my target audience. I don't care if I got to call something else, I don't care. But I got to make sure they're happy because they're the ones buying my products and services. They're the ones that keep me in business. So I just wanted to kind of give you kind of like that backstory. So let's get back to these award shows. And so just to rehash, so the producers come up with an idea for the award show. It's typically something that happened prior to, so that you can now acknowledge them excelling in those areas. Your salespeople, because all networks has salespeople who sell these shows to advertisers, because the advertiser is one that actually pays all of our bills. Unless you're a subscriber company, meaning you're getting your money directly from individual subscribers. Everything else, every time you guys hear advertising, advertisers are writing checks to be on your network because they value your audience. They value your audience. They know your audience demographics. They probably even know how much your audience is buying with them already. Just, and it's people are like, well, how do you know about race and all that kind of stuff? You get a lot of information about people based on their zip codes. And nowadays, because everyone typically purchases using some kind of debit or credit card, they know everything about you, right? Cash is the last place where you can, you put down cash. I can't track cash. If I go and buy a hot dog for $2, I don't know anything about you unless I was there when you first was doing it. And I say, oh, okay, there's Andre. There's a black guy. He bought that hot dog. Cash can't do anything, right? But if I bought that hot dog with a credit card, I had to apply for that credit card. The credit card knows. And even if there's not even race on the credit card, based on the zip code that I am, a lot of times the types of things that I'm into, like say, it's funny, like people, and this is where it's interesting about music, where we forget that people tend to listen to certain kinds of music, and they tend to a lot of times stay in their own race with the music. But we don't call that racism. I mean, I grew up in Pennsylvania. Rock just I wouldn't. My friends who are Italians and English and Polish and all the other stuff, they were into rock. Oh, bless their hearts. You know what I'm saying? So we played football together. They would listen to rock and roll. We was listening to soul music. We were still football, but we're still teammates. So that's what I always kind of go back to. Like sometimes we just do things culturally, and I view all cultures as equal. See, maybe that's the problem. See, Aquarian, born on Valentine's Day, I see culture equal. I don't see this, right? So whatever I ate in the morning, because my mom fixed it or my grandma fixed it, and that's different than what your race and your culture fixed, I'm not going to put mine down for yours. It's equal. I just eat something a little different. For those of you know what I'm talking about. So, you might eat it some kind of roll or biscuit, and I got cornbread. I'm not putting my cornbread like it's down and your biscuit is up. Like, no. Same. But that's me. And hopefully in this area that we're talking about now, we different doesn't have to be unequal. Different is just different, right? You drink Sprite, I drink Coca-Cola. We still drinking soda. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you drink Coke, you're better, smarter than me. Crap. Right. All right. So let's get back to the next step. So producers create the show. In the case of an award show, it's typically something built on something from year past. I'm going to have some kind of I'm getting awards. Part of the show, I'm going to be inviting those guests to be on the show in the audience. This also helps to make sure the eyeballs are watching the show, right? So I just can't do all these awards and none of the people show up because viewers want to see these people. They've been loving their stuff for a whole year, and now they get a chance to see them. And a lot of times in award shows, they get up on stage and they're able to say something personal. So just imagine your favorite artist, musician, actor, and then you finally get to hear them as a human being. That little bit on the stage when they win their award, and you can see them. You know, if they've got family with them, I mean, you see them outside of their character. That's exciting. So for 90 minutes, like, wow, this is cool, right? And then you have some kind of presenters. Now that whole package is what is called a package. Your network salespeople take that to all the advertisers. So they take it to Bud Light, they take it to Sprite, take it to Coca-Cola, they take it to Baskin Robbins, they take it to McDonald's, they take it to all of these people who are interested in your audience and saying, hey, for this amount of money, you can get an ad spot on the show. So that's why when you watch a show, those ads kick in, right? And sometimes they kick in a whole lot of them. For those of you who are sports people, you know, NFL, what do they always tell you? Right, coming up to the NFL, they'll always tell you ad spots are now sold out. And they tell you how much money it is. Now let me show you how this works. Why award shows have to be profitable before they even start. And so then I'm just going to give you sort of like for your own thinking of what happened if they're not following this formula. Because again, this is what producing is about. And you know me, I challenge a lot. I don't think there's a lot of true producing happening anymore. That's why we're in a lot of problems that we have, because it's a skill to itself. Just like writing is a skill, directing is a skill. There's parts of the producing structure. Remember, I'm a former budget director who took that into producing, who took that into line producing. And it's you have to be trained. Someone has to show you how to do it. So okay. So now the advertisers go out to sell it. Now our salespeople are going to say, okay, Andre, well, how much is this going to cost if all, because when I pitch it, I got to pitch it with potential talent and structure. And let's just say, and I'm just giving just round numbers. So you just kind of get on. I'm going to say, we're going to shoot this in Los Angeles and it's going to cost $500,000. That's a production. It's a 90-minute event. It's going to cost $500,000. Now, where am I getting that $500,000 from? As a budget director, as a line producer, I'm lining up everything I have to do to make this happen. Above the line talent, below the line talent, venue, all the costs that are built in to create this 90-minute. The editors at the end to put this little thing on, to get on air, everything, every kind of conceivable. If I'm flying people in, hotel accommodation, whatever it is, everything that's going to make this thing happen, I'm saying it's $500,000. So salespeople, if they come back with $500,000, that means we broke even. It didn't cost. Here's our cost. Here's the revenue. It was zero. Now that's not good because remember, I have a company. I've got other kind of overhead. So if I just do budget to zero, that's just that project. But what about my fee? The salespeople's fee? What about our offices, those offices that we're in, all the other overhead that makes me my business? There's cost there. So it has to be more than that. So I say it's 500,000. Salespeople go out, they sell those spots big enough so they know what they definitely, salespeople know, okay, I got to get more than 500,000. So if I'm selling 37 spots at $10,000 a spot, they're going to come up with some numbers. So they come back and say, okay, we couldn't sell it, or we can only get 500,000. Now, network execs will say, no, we're not doing that at award show because a net zero is not good enough. That doesn't do anything for the company. The company needs to make money. They need to make more than what they do. So in my mind, you at least have to double, right? 500,000 you can get $1 million in ads in advertisement. That means there's a net 500,000 I can take back to the network and put into the bank. Right. In this case, I'll say, sales went out. They got 1.5 million for this event. It cost us 500,000. When everything is said and done, the network walks away with $1 million. It all has to make sense. That's how an award show operates. Award shows, now I'm gonna give you some exceptions to that, but that's what an award show is. You create an award show, people like award shows, even the people who, in this case, let's just say this is a film. Remember I talked about the Grammys, the music industry might write a lot of those checks to make sure that this show happens to that network, right? Because their artists being on those networks, on that show, and they win, there's a psychological thing that happens when you see someone win and then you don't have their stuff, then you'll go out and purchase it. So it's almost like a promotion. It's later than when it happened. Remember, this person was hot a year ago, but now you're gonna get a second wind. And for that, for the people in that business to write some additional checks so that they get more revenue coming, because people like, especially in America, people like the hottest stuff. So and it didn't have that album. Oh, I'm gonna go get that album now. Or a lot of people, they didn't pay attention to the television show. Now I'm seeing it. They didn't remember that film. Now they're back in those days. You get the DVD, or you try to find out where the film is. Maybe it's still in rotation. You can download it. It gets another run, right? So a lot of times the industries themselves write those checks to make sure that happens. But anyway, I digress. So let me just kind of go back and just basic. So basic scenario: create an award show, put it together. Now, if sales comes back and say, they don't really like that host, or they don't like that. Now, as a producer, you got to start tweaking some things, right? Until you get, and the salesperson was very important for salespeople, your sales staff, and your programming people, your creative staff, is that they have a dialogue, so that when they go out and sell something, they can come back quickly, say, you know what, they want it really co-hosted. They just don't want one host, they want a co-host. And I think, and they might say they want a woman and a man, right? So boom. So now producers like, okay, let me go back, let me find out. And then sometimes there's a list, and you pitch it till you get it right. Right? Because at the end of the day, it's what the advertisers want. And it's a finagle, you don't just advertise once this person, and you might think that person's kind of corny. A lot of times your reputation in doing what you're doing, they live with that. A lot of times award shows will consistently have, like, once you get off the very first award show, you have some kind of consistency. Sometimes your host is always like one of the top people that did it in the years before, or you found that person or persons that are great at hosting, and everybody likes it. So but that creates a pattern. That's when you have some historical stuff. So now Now the other reason why you could have an award show where it's not bringing you any money, but it's bringing you the proper publicity. You might pay that 500,000 because it now brings a certain caliber celebrity to your viewership. Because now, and then you're messing with their egos too, right? So when you give somebody an award, man, how many people turn down an award, right? Say, hey, I'm gonna give you the award for best funny person. No, you can keep the award. No, that's not how it works. It's ego. I mean, think of anything that you're interested in, and there's some kind of award show or some you get in something. I'm a big football person, so you're inductee to the Hall of Fame. That's big stuff. After you're done, you get to wear the yellow jacket. You go to Canton, Ohio, with a speech. And there you go. Right. So all those years in, so it's all kind of, everyone has some kind of inductees or something. It's all ego driven, right? Because that's what it's all about. Because when I was like, oh, I loved the game, it was great, moved on, but you wouldn't have award shows and you wouldn't have these inductees because and when I say ego, I mean we all have them. So it's a natural thing, and it's kind of cool to get acknowledgement from your own whether it's your peer group or your fan base of what you did, right? And so that it's a nice little touching way to just acknowledgement. And so that's how these award shows are built. Now you know. So you could have a award show. Oh, let me just reiterate. So you can have the award show where you're not making money, but it's kind of like quote the right thing to do because it's still a strategy. It's almost like it's promotional money because you want to get your network associated with certain kind of celebrities who might not typically come on your network. Sometimes you can't afford them or just they don't typically come. But if you do an award show, now you got them on your network in a chair, in a seat, and such one, and you pan to the audience, you got all these people, all these Hollywood celebrities. Advertisers love Hollywood celebrities. Fans love Hollywood celebrities. Why? Because then they're going to tune in. And it's all about viewership at that point, right? It's all about tuning in. And so any kind of way you can get them up in there. Now they'll you do your advertising. Advertisers love that too because now they get more eyeballs. More eyeballs, you get more viewership. You get, the greater it happens, right? So that's the whole structure. So they're supposed to be profitable. Now, unless it's brand new, unless you have a brand new network. If you're not a brand new network, or you typically are not going to do it when you're not making any money, right? But every once in a while, you might just strategically. Because you want to bring a certain audience into your network, and so you use an award. Remember, award shows are one-time thing, once a year. It's just one show, typically 90 minutes or more, but 90 minutes, one show to bring in some eyeballs, and then maybe you can use that. Now you establish a relationship, maybe backstage. Your creative people, your producers, your executives are intermingling with these talent and their managers or agents, and you might say, hey, they might like Andre and say, hey, let's do something. What you trying to do? Hey, I'm, trying to do a new television show. Want to do it a little different, Oh, my client does it. So now it becomes a networking thing. And something might come out of that. So that can happen too. But in general, I wanted you just to be aware of all of those. In general, award shows gotta make money. All right. So now let's walk to, and remember, you got to remember what has been said. So, and I'm going to specifically separate the ones that have been talked about and what was meant there, right? Because BET Hip Hop Awards and Soul Train Music Awards were suspended indefinitely. Now, in my whole professional life, I've never heard suspended indefinitely for a show. I've never heard that before. Suspended indefinitely. Suspended means that we're not doing it. Indefinitely means you that's I'm like, that's a nice way of saying what? Canceled? Suspended means you're not doing it indefinitely. Now, it definitely has, that word to itself has some kind of longevity to it. When you say, I don't like you indefinitely, that's that's distance. Suspended indefinitely. In my mind, that's just canceled. Now, why would you use a kind of word like that? Now you got to get some bigger story with this, right? Now, this isn't all happening in a bubble. This is happening in context of a merger that happened when Paramount was selling to Skydance, which I mentioned in a previous episode. I asked David Ellison, who's the CEO of Skydance, to sell me BET, right? So he hasn't hit me up on that offer, but sell it to me, I get it back, and I cut you in so you can still be a minority presence in it and move it back. Because my whole thing is we got to get the Black culture back to Black excellence, and in America, that's a profitable concept, right? Black people, you make money from Black people because we're trendsetters. We make things hot, we make things pop. So my whole thing is like, if we're going to get that kind of exploitation, at least we can have it in such a way that we can employ and hire our own to do things, right? Man, that's the whole idea of us going to work every day. A lot of us get up in the morning, we got to go to work for bosses. They're making more money off us than we're making off of them. So it's a natural thing that's happening there. All right. So Soul Train Music Awards and the Hip Hop Awards. So let's talk about the Soul Train Awards. Now, I'm older than probably a lot of you that's probably tuning in. There was a dance show called Soul Train. Now, remember, my background is also in branding, so I understand naming things, branding things. So there was a show called Soul Train, and Soul Train aired. Wrote it down somewhere. Soul Train aired. This is the dance show from 1971 to 2006. So Soul Train, the dance show, aired from 1971. You got to go back and look at some old ones. I think they're on YouTube. Yeah, and you can see. I don't know. I don't know if these are probably your parents. Yeah, probably your parents. Maybe some of your grandparents and afros and stuff. And you can see even back then, black people were cool, right? And from 1971 to 2006. Okay. And the first Soul Train, and Don Cornelius was the creator of Soul Train. So it wasn't owned by BET back then. And the first Soul Train award show was in 1987. So that made sense, right? So I have this dance show that's going on where at that time, and for the majority of Soul Train, was more R&B and funk black artists. Every once in a while, they might have a non-black artist, but they were still in those categories. So if they were cool, a Tina Marie, who was definitely not black, but sung like a sister. I remember the first time I heard Tina Marie, I was like, and then I saw her. This is what I love about black people, including myself. This is me admitting it. When I saw her, I was like, wow, that's a white girl. And then she started singing a little bit more. I was like, cool, the white girl can sing. See, that to me is the reaction. That's a natural human reaction to something. And then after that fact, you just move on. And that's how our folks tend to do something different, catch you for a hot second. I remember when on my watch, Gary Owen became the host of Comic View. I was like, ooh, this is going to be interesting. Now, mind you, he was voted that year of Comic View when we had a host. The host was voted on by the people that were there in Gardena, California, at the Normandy Casino, and those black judges voted for him, so he won. So I'm not going to not let him win. It's like that's like being like the man. I'm just going to switch up stuff just because some other black people had some issues with it. Well, they weren't there. They didn't come support the show. All those people that are talking, black people talking all that trash, they weren't there. This was some excitement for those black people that showed up in Gardena, California. All right. So Soul Train, the music award started in 1987. Now that makes sense, right? Because then as a producer, I have an active show that has music artists coming on. And then I do an award show. And then I invite those music artists who are backed by their labels to come do an award show. Now, the dance show ended in 2006. So from 2006 to 2025, you had a Soul Train Music Awards that was based on what? Remember I was saying a producer uses an award show based on some kind of activity that was happening prior to, because the Soul Train, that brand, that name Soul Train, is connected to a dance show. Now I'm going to take that Soul Train name, Soul Train Awards, and it's not connected to anything active anymore. So when I hear that R&B artists weren't showing up for Soul Train, well, if I'm an R&B artist and I'm singing in 2007, Soul Train doesn't mean anything to me. I'm not using that word anywhere. There's not a dance show in 2007 where I could go on that dance show and you say, he's blowing up, right? And then next year I get an award for best new R&B artist, right? Because you viewers, the fans, saw me on Soul Train in 2007, which, remember, I'm telling you, no longer exists. So I'm in my mind, I'm like, why is that? Why is Are you doing a Soul Train Music Awards? Remember I was saying before, to get some kind of, is it a promotional thing, something in the industry that you need to tap into for all of those years? Or in my mind, and you know me, I'm big on solutions. So if I'm going to maintain Soul Train Music Awards, then I'm going to have some kind of Soul Train show. Now I know there's a big issue with music and rights and that kind of thing. Well, you know, I might do independent artists or artists who own their own masters. I'm going to create some kind of show so that when it is airing in 2024, this new made up Soul Train show that has to, because it's around music, so it has to be music driven some kind of way, that I could then acknowledge those artists with the award show. Now, I believe that would have maintained Soul Train. Now, this is just my speculation, but this is based on my producing experience. If I'm going to use a brand, and that's what the question I'm going to ask in the room, say, hey, folks, we need to have something that the viewers can watch so that we can acknowledge those artists a year from now on this thing called Soul Train. And it wouldn't have to cancel. Okay, so that's my interpretation there. That's why I'm like, in my personal opinion, way too long. And if it was all of these years, just spending money, not getting any return. Remember, BT already has BT Awards, so it's not like they don't have any award show, right? They have an award show. I mean, they got a couple of award shows, and maybe that's the problem. There's too many of them, right? They need to consolidate and make something pop. Just like, to me, I kind of give that big three: the Grammys, the Emmys, and the Oscars. Those big three, and so everybody can't get an award, right? It's like that diminishes it. If everyone, remember on football, dude, if everyone can get in the Hall of Fame, then what's that about, right? And so if you ever watch these inductees, there's only so many people can get into these things. So Hall of Fame, we only admitting 86 every year. I mean, you got to keep it exclusive because that gives it its value. That makes it special. If I'm R&B Artist of the Year and there's like tons of us, you know, because you split down R&B into so many different pieces that everybody gets an award. Okay, right? It's like kindergarten. Everybody gets an A. And then what's the A for? Just do pass and fail, right? If you're going to use letter grades, fractions, I got a D in fractions when I was in fourth grade. The reason why I can remember that at this age is because that negative thing that happened, I remember it, right? And I was like, woo, I had to get my little act together. So sometimes not getting something makes you work harder for it. So if I didn't get Entertainer of the Year, I'm going to get back in and I'm going to work harder for it, right? And so there's value in making sure things are limited in that sense. So that's that's my recommendation for Soul Train, to get it out of suspended indefinitely. Because remember, from my investigation, they're looking at, well, what platform? What was profitable? It don't matter where a platform is, right? Because a profitable show, if advertisers are giving me more money than it costs me to do it, it's profitable. But if that's not the case, and I'm doing something else, see, that's where producing has to kick in. That's why you got to get people in there and know what they're doing. So you don't have that. My recommendation to keep Soul Train, and if viewers, if you want to keep Soul Train alive, if you want to make it, you know, it's that thing that your parents and your grandparents would talk to you about, then we got to bring back Soul Train, the show. And we got to do a dance show. I was just watching a documentary on Christopher Stokes and Marcus Houston, and they were talking about, what was their movie that did? Their dance movie. Someone remember what their? Just was watching it last night. Let me. Thank God I got more than one computer, right? Oh, I hate when I just don't remember. And it's. I think I saw on Tubi. That's a very good documentary. They said a lot. You got served. You got served. Right. So make sure. So I'm coming up with, me personally, if I'm going to save Soul Train Music Awards, I'm going to have a television series attached to it. I'm going to do a new television series, and I'm going to figure out a way to make it affordable, because music rights are a big thing. But there's you know, you can start negotiating just things that you can do, types of artists that are a little more hungry, artists that have their own stuff. And if I could show where, like back in the day at BET, the whole music video thing was, you know, these record labels own those music videos that you saw inside those shows. They own them. And then they looked at it to us as promotion. So they spent whatever they spent for them. We would air them. Because we aired them back in those days. People would go buy their albums. They thought that was a great deal. So it was almost like it was like ads. A music video, just like a long ad, but it was cool because it was music. So we didn't look at it like just a normal ad. A music video is an ad for those artists. And so when, you know, the internet exploded, and, you know, you can see that whole business model went away, right? So coming back, I believe in the music world and their entertainment world, we're sort of rekindling 1950s. The 1950s. So young people, you need to research. Artists are back on the road. Comics are back on the road. We're doing things back in the streets. It's not everybody's tuning into New York and LA. You bring in your concerts to Cincinnati, to Cleveland, to Miami, to Houston, to Memphis, to Birmingham. We're going back out. The artists are going back and reconnecting with their fans where they are. So those tours. So artists, your thing is to get you a hellified tour bus with a tour manager, and know that you got to go hotels to hotels. You got to get back and you got to bring it back to the streets. We're all kind of going through that. So that's what I would be doing with Soul Train as a producer. I'd create a new Soul Train television series skewed to young people after school, just like the original one. So when you come home from school, you can watch this cool series. And then when that series has its year under it, then I'm going to do and have artists come on. Then I'm going to create some winners from that. And then that's how then I'm going to now connect Soul Train to something that's out there. That's how I would do Soul Train. Now, the second one is the Hip Hop Awards. Okay. Now, BET Awards honored music. But at the time, hip hop just exploded so much, and greed factor kicked in, where we took hip hop as a music genre and placed it on its own. As opposed to like when you watch the Grammys, all music, there's multiple types of music inside it. Now, it's a risk when you move off a genre by itself, and then it has to live on its own. Okay. And then what tends to happen there is then you got to do more. You got to do more categories, right? Because you got 90 minutes to fill with just hip hop as a genre. Where if I have a BET Music Awards or just a BET Awards show, I'm gonna have film, TV, and music and sports. I got a lot of different categories that I got to get through. Now, in that case, I might go 2 hours. Probably won't. I'm not gonna go any further than 2 hours, but I'm gonna give you the best of the best. And I think that to me, that's, as a producer, that's what I like in doing an award show. I like to keep it 2 hours and then give you the best of the best, and just the categories that work. And then those are ones I'm not going to cut up in a lot of stuff. Boom. It is what it is. I'm going to keep it special. So my personal opinion about the Hip Hop Awards is that hip hop as a category should go back to the BET Awards show. Because it ran its course. Hip hop was a fresh new genre, and now it's seasoned itself to like everything else. So whether you're R&B, whether you're funk, whether you're, soul, all of these different kind of categories of music, you run a risk if you keep it by itself, especially when you have something that kind of overlaps. And then hosting of the BET Awards, you got to be. it's very tempting to let things go and do way too much to the record industry. Remember, the record industry is about promoting their artists, and you got to respect that. They're about and as a producer of a television show, that's where you've got to meet that head on, right? Because you just can't just let it be that whatever they want, because they're all the dominant ones. I mean, it's just like the alpha of the wolf pack. That one's going to eat up all the meat. So whatever those bigger ones are, they're going to eat it up because that's just naturally what they do. You can't blame them for that because that's what they're built to do. So my record label is what I finance. I finance my artists, and I try to put my artists in great places, right? So if I can bum rush an award show and have all my artists dominated, that's what I'm going to do. But this is where producers, that's where the pushback comes back. We're sort of like the judges. It's like, no, it just can't be your label. We're going to pick the best. Some of them could be your artists and some of them couldn't be. And, I know you wanted to push this person because they got something coming out next, da-da-da. All of those things have to be negotiated, and you got to be very careful with it, right? Because it's really tough to not have a bias like that, right? So, and if there's a way to say, well, okay, well, there's three of the top labels got some artists on the road doing something, and maybe we can incorporate. And there are 3 different record labels. See, that I'm creating some kind of balance and adding that, right? But if you do it to just one, then it gets tricky. And hip hop just by itself is a very aggressive art form. So they're going to have very aggressive executives, and it's going to be a very aggressive show, right? Because it's just built the way it is. And I don't need to. We all know when you've seen some stuff, it's like, it can get out there, right? So how do you just take all that out? Well, you narrow it down. You can cut out a lot of the nonsense because it's not like an indoor street battle. It's an award show, right? And an award show needs to have some kind of tone. It needs to be special. And so you guide that by making things selective. So for me personally, I'm taking hip hop, that category, and I'm bringing it back to BET Awards. Matter of fact, both of these two, I'm bringing. Well, I'm gonna pause on Soul Train because I think the Soul Train Music Awards is a award show without a television series, and it needs that because that brand doesn't mean anything. Because young people don't know what Soul Train means. Us older folks know what it meant, but that's because we watch the shows. They need. It's like Abbott. It's an Abbott Elementary award show, and there's no Abbott Elementary. Nothing to balance it. So I was about to say I was going to put that back in, but no. My solution for Soul Train Music Awards is, and I don't know, whatever the rights are, whatever, we just gonna have to get back to the table because it's like, we can't. I need to have something on my network, Soul Train, to then have an award show for it. So to me, it's an award show without something to award for. And just to ask R&B artists to come to a Soul Train award show where there's nothing in it for me, and I'm not saying it in a bad sense, it's like that's just the whole idea. So, like I was saying, so if I'm Neo and I'm a soul singer, where that word Soul Train is not connected to me anyway. Now, if I have a Soul Train show and then I could jump on it. Some of these young people in R&B to continue the platform, because you want to, to me, we're kind of going through a renaissance. And I think, I'm not sure how close we are, but we're getting there. I think the artist love is starting to come back into the language of these artists when they're doing lyrics and stuff, which I think is cool. Everything has a cycle. We go through the angry time, we go through the ratchetness time, we go through everything is on my body and I got this on my wrist and I'm driving this. Yeah, we go through that. And now I think because artists to me are the poets and they're the eyeballs, they're the lens to the culture. And I think in the world right now, because there's so much pain out there, so much violence out there, that I think, and this is my challenge to artists, because that's what I love about artists. They know how to write those lyrics, and now I put that stuff to music, I think is back. We got to get love back. So artists, you got to get the love game back, man. We got to get that, and that's what you're for. That's not for me to do. That's what your talent is for, and I think that's what the people need. We need to ramp down the stress level out there, and that's what I think artists would do. So that's my take on those two. When we say, and when I say to you, profitable shows don't get suspended. So if those two shows were profitable as of today, they're not getting suspended. Like, who suspends money? So that's automatically telling me, okay, they're not profitable. And then if they're not profitable, by definition, viewership is already somewhere. And they never mention viewership numbers. If you got good viewership numbers, you mention it. You don't have, and this is again, folks, so this is how you understand producing. If you got positive information, you always put it out there. If you don't say anything, right? So if you got numbers, you put the numbers up. If you're like, well, we're profitable, then none of this would have happened at all. This to me is carrying too many award shows without dissecting what they're for. That there could have been at some point some easy money for advertisers, because advertising might came and say, hey, we want a hip hop award show. And you're a smart network. You say, okay, we'll do it. Hey, we want to honor Soul Train, and we did in the past, and we'll give you some money for Soul Train. That could have happened. But at some point, that got old. And then when it gets old, you got to be smart. But to me, I've always thought that about Soul Train. It's like, how do you have an award show, a branded award show, an iconic branded award show based off of a television show, and the television show last aired in 2006? I'm like, to me, the last Soul Train Music Award should have been airing in 2007, so that I could honor the artists that came in on 2006. And then at that point, I would be thinking about, okay, is it impossible to do a dance show? And like You Got Served was a film, but I've seen a lot of like little dance movies and stuff. I think young people are at the place now where you can do that again, where you can do an after school show. And it might be, there's a lot of different types of music that's trying to get into people's heads. It's just a creative thing. It doesn't have to be complicated, right? But I think that young people would like to see something. That would be kind of a cool thing. You could go hang out with your friends, come home, because we're all on our individual phones, and that just breeds more individualism. That's why I think a lot of people are not happy, because our devices are very individual. And I think we want to do group social things again, right? We want to hang out. And I always say this to a lot of my friends when we're starting to create things. I think Generation Z and Generation Alpha, the younger generations, I think they want to get off the couch. I think they want to go out and do stuff safe, but together. I think they know they're missing something. So whatever that is, it could be. And again, young people are young people. As long as, when I was growing up, as long as you're doing stuff with your friends that's safe, man, it's cool, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right? I was at the store and I could see kids, the parents were starting to buy, that's so funny. The parents were starting to buy like the back to school stuff, and you can see like the parents' face was like, "Yeah, we gotta get these pens, gotta get your uniform and school supplies," and then the kids like, "Man, summer is over. I gotta go back to school." It's hilarious, that kind of thing, right? And I'm like, see, that's why you gotta enjoy your summers, because they be quick. Now, for me, I'm gonna tell my age again. We went back after Labor Day, right? I saw a sign driving home that said, registration is August 20th. I was like, that's next week. It's like, sheesh, you don't even have like a full summer anymore. So poor kids. So I say that to say that I think, and this is challenging any creators out there, I'm like, man, do a bowling show, do a roller skating rink show, do something where a dance show, a simple American Bandstand, Soul Train, Dance, a simple dance show. You got to do it with a certain, the talent that you pick, where you do it at. I'm gonna keep those little things in my head because that's giving you the basic thing. That's fine. I don't care. People are like, you, Andre, you tell your business. No, I don't tell. I'll tell you some basic stuff, but it takes more than that to get that season just right, right? I'll tell you, yeah, I use ketchup and I use a little salt, pepper, and a little garlic, something else. But my little magic sauce, I reserve the right to keep that because you got to pay me for that part. It's like, nah, that's why I'm a producer. But basic concepts, I think the more people that are out there going and just challenge them to young people want to get off those couches. They want to do stuff together safely. They want to be able to go out safe. That's why I'm never giving up on theatrical movies as well, because there's nothing like seeing something on 80-foot screen. I don't care what y'all say. If you got to just figure out kind of ways to get them in there, but if you can get them in there and they're sitting in that chair and they're looking up, they're like, whoa, that sound comes, man. Now I'm not too mad about that $20 that I paid. But if I'm gonna sit on my couch doing the same thing I did every day, I'm looking at my phone, looking at my laptop. I'm typically probably there because most of us we're alone in a lot of these because we're just alone people, right? Even when I see people out on the bus, see people walking, they got their headphones on, they're looking down, they're not even engaging with people around them, and they wonder why they ain't got nobody in their lives. They just be walking right past people, got their headphones in, just oblivious to the world. And imagine starting that at 14 and 15 years old. You're like these little lone wolves. And as lone wolves, that's not a good thing, right? Because we're losing our social skills. That's why I'm like, you got to go out your way to do something that's happened. I don't care if you take your dog to the dog. They're supposed to just walk with your dog because I kind of live in a hilly area, and I see a lot of people just walk their dog up and down, but it's just them and their dog. You got to stop at a doggy park or find some other people who walk their dogs and walk together so that you can have some social skills as well. Because then you're going to work, driving past in your little electric car. I see you by yourself. You go to work, you put your headphones on, you in your break and lunch in your lunchroom and your break, you're eating and looking at your phone, and then you walking through stuff, you're on your phone, you go buying clothes and stuff, you're on your phone, you're checking prices on your phone, you're scanning on your phone, you're not even engaging with the people that are at the stores that much. You're losing all the, then you go to checkout, you go to self-checkout, no humans there, right? Or you order this stuff and they fill it up, you drive up, they put it in your trunk, you might get a hi, hello, ma'am, da-da-da, is your name such and such? Boom, slams your door, boom, you're gone. No social skills, right? And then you watch every movie on the planet and every television show right there on your couch. Ain't nobody there either. You and the dog that you just walked up and down the street, right? There you go. So, producers, people who want to get life back, it's our jobs to get you out of those. And as humans, we love our habits. We'll get into our little habits. We'll get into a routine. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. I'm at the age now where women are like, oh, I don't want anybody. I don't want anybody. And now a lot of them are like, oh, I want somebody. And they in panic mode because they just went through every year. We're creatures of habit. We drive the same way to work. We drive the same way back. We don't even make a turn. I feel guilty sometimes. I live in Altadena, and a lot of our neighborhood is destroyed, and we have a little bridge. Like when I go out to go into the world, and it's closed, so I had to detour and go this other way to get back on. I didn't even know those other streets existed because I would never make those lefts or those rights on the other side of the park. Now I'm forced to go a different way. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of those different things. I just didn't even know that was here because you just have you go to the grocery store this way, you get home this way, you leave this way, you go around traffic this way, and then you just repeat that day after day, year after year, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Yeah, there you go. So I'm very cognizant now I believe we need to get people out. And that's why you guys are going to concerts again. People are like, well, it's cost so much. I was like, it ain't about the cost, it's the behavior, right? the imperfection, the feel of being somewhere where there's 50,000 people. It just can't describe. So sporting events, music events, things that can get you out. And to me, theater, you got to do some stuff a little bit differently. You got to do something with them food and snacks. I think that, as to me, theater, I'm talking about film, you should be designating days in your week for different things, right? So that people will know, oh, Friday is hard. Thursday is dramas. Wednesday is love stories. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is international stuff. You got Saturday morning is kung fu and martial arts, whatever. Sunday, is for the churchgoers. The inspirational stuff. I mean, theme out your week, and then people then know, to Wednesday's couples night. So, or Thursday's date night. That's the time, because I think people aren't dating anymore. They don't know how to date, and there's no excuse to create dates. So if I have something that can create a date, I remember last episode I was telling you, it's like when I used to go on a date, it was like it was a movie, dinner, and miniature golf, or we call it putt-putt, right? And I found a place where all three of those things were the same little place. I mean, I was the man back then, right? So that was the dating thing. So, and I talked to you back then about just how, movie, you don't really talk a lot, eating, you're starting to warm up a little bit, and we're hungry and we're eating. And then miniature golf, that's real cool because now you got something to do and you can still continue a conversation. And so if you're nervous with each other, that's a nice little event of a variety of things, right? And so it's kind of fun because I don't like the golfing when you get out there all hours. It's like, no, man, little windmills or water things. That's cool. Because again, it's about dating. It's about having conversations and you doing your little putt thing. And it's kind of cool, right? So I wanted to share that with you guys because I think, and again, I'm going to bring you perspectives like this so that you can then challenge, when you go on these other sites and you're starting to ask people questions about the stuff. This is the stuff that you need to be asking as to what, these things don't come out of anywhere. And a lot of these things are deficits of the producing is not there. Right. And so then out of nowhere, you get these like events. And so if a CEO has to then say these kinds of things, to me, this is a long-term illness that kicked in. And then the other thing too, and remember before you get to the CEO of BET all the time, remember he don't own BET. And now it's owned by Skydance. And so they got to approve everything, right? So he didn't just go out there and just do it on his own. But like any other kind of execs, I think solutions should happen because this is the reactions like to me when you see something like this. I think that using the term suspended indefinitely, I think was used to calm Black people down, to be honest. Right? Because you say something's canceled and Black people are going to get charged. And we're not going to get charged. We're going to get charged with the owners of BET, right? The owners of BET is Skydance Paramount, right? BET doesn't own BET, so that was a way of kind of making, and sometimes it deflects and we're off. But I would say even to this, if they knew, because at the same time, then I just saw MTV Awards is doing theirs in conjunction with CBS. Okay, remember I just told you about the Michael Jackson thing, right? So a lot of peeling back of the onion on that one. But I always go to the money factor. People don't like throwing out their money. If you can have some solutions to something, and that's what we need to be a little bit more prone to. We've got the arguments down. We've got to get fired up things down. But now we got to add to that description solutions. So my two solutions is the next thing, the next comments that should come out is, and it's just me speaking now, is my opinion. If I'm sitting in front of BET execs or Skydance Paramount execs, I'm like, I'm rolling hip hop back into the award show. And I'm looking for a Soul Train show. I'm bringing and me personally, I I'm bringing I'm doing a dance show because I think when kids watch a dance show, they're going to see dancers dance in certain kind of ways, and guess what they're going to do? They're going to copy those dances. So those dances might show up during their cheerleading renditions. Those dances might just, after school, they got the beatbox, lunchroom, just dancing after school at the spot, dancing because it's dancing is a social thing, right? And it encourages good social skills. So that's what I'm doing, and you can dance without a partner. Everybody can just get up and then people be, oh, I saw such and such do this dance on the show. I can do it myself. Young people want to dance as well too. So that's what I would do with Soul Train Music Award. I would say I would get my executives, my development people, or phone. My phone's still the same one I had before. Ring it up, and it's like, okay, Andre, come up with a dance show. And then that dance show guess what it's called? Hello, Soul Train. And I'm gonna come up with a dance show that works, and then bring back the Soul Train Music Awards based on the artists that are coming on the dance show, and maybe even some of the dancers. I might even create categories for dancers to win something. Style of dance. Fashion. I mean, it's a lot of fun that you can have with that audience. And oh my God, here you go. Have the viewers, the Gen Zers after school watching the show, have them hit up and create the award show based on what they're selecting. Hey, that's like sort of like the People's Choice Awards, right? I did the People's Choice Award for Soul Train, Soul Train 2026. Boom. Then I come back and do the award show. That award show is going to be profitable because those advertisers want those Gen Z eyeballs, right? So they're going to be like, what? Are you kidding me? Those beauty people, the soft drink people, those fast food folks. I see them bringing back, making the wraps and all them people and adding tea to their sodas, them people. Come on now. That's how you revitalize something from a scenario where it looks bleak. Okay, to me, that's a tweak because to get eyeballs up, that means I got to create something exciting. Something is they're leaving for a reason. I respect the fact when people leave, they're saying something. What you're showing me, I'm not interested in. And you can be pig-headed and try to shame them. That ain't gonna work. And you have to be honest. You got to sit back. It's like, okay, what am I doing? Is it my talent? Is it my host? Is it who? What's not working here? And do I have too much of something? Is there overkill? Let me look at my whole programming lineup. How many award shows do I have? Are they overlapping the same audience? Are we using the same talent in all of them? Because I believe BT does the Image Awards as well too. So you got the NAACP Image Awards, you got the BT Awards, you got Soul Train Awards, you got BT Hip Hop Awards. Whew. That's a lot of stuff, right? And then is there overlap? And is something not making sense? Remember, all of them got to be talent based. Artists. You want artists to come out to all four of those things. That's expensive, especially when a lot of artists their net, their film companies, their television companies, their music labels. They're picking up the expense to get these people there. That's 4 different occasions. That's a lot of money that they got to recoup in whatever they're doing. Right. That's a big promotional budget. So I don't like to get too much past my hour. I'm a little bit long-winded today because I think it's important for you guys to kind of understand the business side of what I heard when I heard those statements. And me, I'm big on not only being aware of what the problem is, but I guess that's the producer in me, what the problem is, but potential solutions for it. And I don't mind sharing with you what those are because we have to do a lot more of this, of people like myself who understand this craft from behind the scenes sharing it with you, because a lot of you have your own shows and your own opinions. And when you go on these, when you bring up your opinions to these other talent, bring these things up, and then you'll see how they react to it. Or did they know it? Like if they say, "Oh yeah, I know how award shows are structured," and then you challenge them, it's like, "Well, when did you do one? How do you know it was structured?" Or you just opinion, right? And so this is how we start to develop and move things forward. And I'm big with an educated viewer that's going to make the right decisions because you've got the information. Because remember, you guys are paying that bill every month. And this is the least I can do for the money that you're spending with me is to, and then walk you through all of these things that happen when we do these things. Because a lot of us, we just see the shows, we just don't know how they're created, and no one tells us. We'll hear from a talent's perspective of a show. Because I was just watching a special, and they're talking to comedians about the business of comedy, but the comedian can only talk about the business of comedy from their perspective as the talent, but they don't have any producers on talking about it from the perspective of the producer of the show hiring the talent. Because when I hire a talent to do certain functions for me. I build the whole thing, but you're not getting that. You constantly just getting the one POV and have no idea what's going on behind the scenes or why things are operating. And we just don't get that part of the conversation. We just get the front end part. A lot of us want to now do our own TV shows and our own film, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes and structure. I'm gonna be in Houston in about a week or so for auditions for a film I'm doing. Right, I'm paying to go there to do some film auditions for something I'm doing, and there's a certain way the talent is going to audition for me because I know that's how they need to do it for me, and I have to thin out the people who have invested in their craft and those people who haven't, because I need the people who invested in their craft, because that's what I hire. I don't hire robots. I hire you for what you're good at. Right? If you're a lighting person, I hire a lighting person. I don't want to do the lighting myself. I know about lighting, but I hire you and I respect your skill. So I hire actors at whatever the level of their acting is, but they're actors because I know they're supposed to bring something to me. That's what I'm hiring. What they're bringing to me is a skill. At that point, I'm a writer, producer, then director. I'm hiring actor. I'm not an actor. Don't want to be an actor, right? Now, if I have to be on screen because of certain things, that's different. But it's not my craft, so I respect it. Just like stand-up comics. I'll never be a stand-up comedian. I might have my funny ways, but it's a craft, stand-up comedians. And I think almost every episode, man, Black comics got to stop the fighting. Got to stop the bashing, man. Talk about concepts. So you don't got to get it. Don't be going in. It doesn't. This is from a producer's. It doesn't do you any good to go after different comics. That's just making fodder for the people who are creating that platform, so they can get eyeballs. Right? I respect the craft. You're all talented. If you got beef with someone, they got phones. Reach them just like your family. You don't be putting your family business out there. Just stop that stuff. There's other things that you got issues with. You put more energy in collaborations and maybe doing something together. And just get out of that culture of we don't need to be beefing like that. There's plenty of audience for everybody. And there's plenty of topics to talk about. And there's plenty of things that you guys need to move forward and get into. Sometimes you might have to put your craft of stand-up comedy down because now you're an owner. Right? And so you own a comedy club. You can't be jumping up on the stage every week. You're the owner now. So it's like retiring, right? It's like these players. It's like once you retire, man. It's like, especially sports, football is a young person's game. It's like at a certain point, And I'm kind of a big believer too. It's like once you finish the sport, you need to talk about something else. Move on, right? Focus on ownership. A lot of professional athletes, you come from systems where the majority of you that are doing the performance are not owning it, and you might not be able to own that thing, but maybe you do you do football ownership somewhere else. Right? So don't want to get preachy on you, but I think it was important for you to get some information about really what you need to be able to do here. My recommendations for these. I think the next thing, well, no, I'm not going to talk to you about the next thing until it's time for the next thing. I normally like to wait to see something kind of play itself out, see where people are going with it. So, again, my big thing is BT Hip Hop Award Show, that genre hip hop, roll that back into BET Awards. Soul Train, I mentioned that. Let's do a show. And since you have things on suspended indefinitely, that means there's a pause, long pause. But I think you get out of those pauses when you make things profitable, because at the end of the game, it's all about the money. So I see y'all guys again. That's the way we do it. And I am checking out. I'm starving too. I need to get something to eat. All right, folks, hit me up. And if you got any questions, at the way we do it TV, and I put up. Oh, it's so funny. I want you to check out. I put up a Anime Night is a really funny comedy, female comedian, and they did a little scene with the young ladies are sitting on the couch just talking, women stuff, and it's hilarious. You guys really responded to it, so I really enjoyed doing my sketch comedy show because, and that's what I'm really gonna be pushing harder to bring it back, because I think it was a great platform for a variety of things, So and that one I'm so glad I did that one because, you know, as I have to understand that I think like a male, and a lot of stand up comedy is male driven, but women are just as talented. So you gotta, just like anything else you do, you gotta, to be a good producer, you have to know what you're weak at, and then just kind of overcompensate for that. So a little sketch, I think it's like about 2-3 minutes of your time. It's a funny, cute little sketch. And again, what and when I looked at it, I said, I keep forgetting that they're doing it in front of a live audience. So when you check it out, you see them on the stage, and then you see the heads. And that's why I made sure when I shot it that I shot from behind. Like in sitcoms, you never see them. A lot of those sitcoms are done in front of a live audience. So the way we do it was in my mind like live sketch theater, like you were there, right? It's like courtside seat tickets to the Lakers game, or 50-yard line tickets to the Eagles game, because I'm a big Eagles fan. And so, and my talent, man, they were doing this stuff, and there wasn't no second takes. We didn't do second. I shot it as if it was live. So they had to go up there, and the one thing I always make sure that no matter what my sketches were, there's always a comedian. I can't think of any of them. There's always a comedian in all my sketches. Just in case something goes wrong, comics are trained to fill that space, move that puppy along, because that's how they're built. So I'm so thankful that the comedians that took a chance on me to do the show. They did it. And if you guys get a chance, check Annie McKnight. It's my last one that I posted maybe a couple of days ago. And I don't give it away. It's only 3 minutes. But they're on a couch and they're in front of a live audience doing this. One take, folks. One take. So that's why I constantly remind you guys of the kind of talent that we come from and how we can just step up a bar, and that's what I'm kind of big. It's like, nah, let's do live stuff, man. Let's just all this, do it 5-6 times over. That's just lazy. Let's just step the game up, right? Let's just like, no, look, I don't have enough money to do this 5-6 times. I'm going to hire the right kind of people who know how to do this, and let's step it up, and let's bring entertainment back to the people. Let's do some fun things. Let's get you guys off those couches and hang out with your friends in a safe, cool way and enjoy some stuff that you might not have enjoyed in a long time, but get you back out there, so at least once a week you do something fun. So if you got to go to work, you're like, ugh, right? So that you don't be up to stabbing and killing people at work, right? Because what's all that about? That means you're not a happy person. And for me, being in the entertainment business, we got to bring this temperature down. We got to get, and to me, I love, and I'm not gonna lie, where is mine? I'm not one of those. I'm not gonna talk about something I don't have. It is a machine. It does help devices. I got 2 laptops sitting here too, but I understand these are tools, and these aren't tools to master myself socially with. They're just to amplify things. But in my mind, I have to. Human beings, we're social creatures. We are social creatures, and we got to do stuff to get around each other. And I like this artist now going back and doing performances in concerts. I like comics going back into the theaters, into the clubs, doing these events. I like, and again, TV. You got to do TV at home, which to me that's fine. That's the one activity to me. It's like TV home, theater, movies in the theaters, concerts, theater, stand-up comedy, theater, and then after effects, you can go back onto your uh, into your streaming world. But that's after the fact, right? For those occasions. But to get out, uh, you know, get out in the street. Folks who got pets, especially those dogs, uh, uh, single young ladies who got pit bulls, yeah, I'm not moving around y'all too much. So if you wonder why you ain't getting a lot of dates, I'm like, I'm not approaching you with that pit bull. Now I grew up with Doberman pinschers and German shepherds, and I'm not knocking pit bulls. That's what you love. That's what you love. But man, you know. So go to that doggy park, and if you're doing something safely, do it with a couple people so you can socialize. But don't do things so individualistic that no one can approach you in a safe manner. You drink coffee every day, maybe once a week, go to that coffee shop, that local coffee shop. And when you go in there and get your coffee, just have a smile on your face. I know you got to be careful. That's what uh, your phones are for, and that's what mace is for, pepper spray. Do things again, and again, do things collectively. And then when you're with your friends, don't be hating because someone comes up and they like your friend. Don't be blocking. Right? I want y'all to go out together because that's safe. But then when you're out together, then people still can't meet you because you're like, oh, you're not, I don't need to go through all that with y'all. But when you're going in a pack and someone likes one of y'all, don't be hating. Everybody gets a shot, right? When you go to comic clubs, go up front. You'll have a better time in the front and in the back, right? It just is. Well, what's going to happen? They're going to laugh at your shirt. A lot of comedians, they're not. What I notice about a lot of stand-up comedians, they're not attackers anymore. There used to be a lot of stand-up comedians. I'm not going to mention names of this one, that they would see you and they would attack you just for what you have on, right? Remember in Nutty Professor? Ooh, I think it was the Clumps. I think it was Meet the Clumps. Remember when Eddie Murphy was in the audience and they were at that club. And remember Clump the first time when he's big, he got heckled, and I think that's Dave Chappelle. Yeah, Dave Chappelle was the guy on the stage heckling. Then Eddie comes back the second time and goes in on him, goes up on the stage. That's a funny one. You guys need to check that out. All right, that's it. Cause see, now I'm starting to talk about movies, and I'll bring my kind of movie stuff as movie topics go along. So I will see you guys again. Take care.